Madam Secretary, thank you so much again. Sorry for the delay. Um, we are very honored and excited to have our Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, joining us this evening. Secretary Weber, there is a room full of people very interested to hear from you. So just as a quick introduction, Secretary Weber was appointed Gavin Newsom in 2020, then officially elected in 2022. She is California's first Black Secretary of State and only the fifth African American in state office in California history. Before becoming secretary, she served 4 terms in the California Assembly representing San Diego, where she chaired the Assembly Elections and Redistricting Committee and was the first African American to chair the Budget Committee. Dr. Weber has long been an advocate and a fighter for voting rights and election protections. We are honored to have her here joining us to discuss the work she's done for us as California voters.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm really pleased to be with you this evening. I know we've tried to hook up on and off, and so I'm glad we were able to make this happen this evening. So I really value being with you. One of the good things from COVID is that we all learned how to use Zoom and everything else. So it makes it easier for travel. So you try to think of some of the positive stuff that comes out of the challenges. And obviously, this is one of those that had it not been for COVID, we probably would be trying to figure out how to get to most of the places where you are and to make contact. That's also sometimes a negative because it's good to see people and it's good to touch folks and know that they're there. It's my honor to serve as your Secretary of State. This has been a very, very difficult time, as you probably know, with lots and lots of challenges. But when I was asked to serve as Secretary of State by the governor, and people wanted to know why would I leave the legislature, because many of you know I'd done some tremendous things in terms of use of lethal force and dealing with a lot of issues that were faced by communities and dealing with those who were incarcerated and making sure they had the right to vote again and all those kinds of things that we did in our office to deal with social justice issues as well as educational issues. But I said to the press at the time that when I decided to actually become Secretary of State, when the governor had finally asked me and I had to think long and hard about it, it was mainly because I said I saw what was coming and I'd seen it before in other countries as I traveled, and I knew that the nation was going to be in peril. And they didn't believe me. And then 2 weeks later, we had January 6th. So we saw, at least I did, with what I'd seen around the world in terms of what was happening with people denying elections and pretending that the democracy didn't exist and creating false information. That those were the things I saw in Ghana and other places that had a tendency to try to undermine the democracy and make people question whether or not a democracy was worth it or even possible. So we have been facing this challenge now for the last 6 years. And this election is probably going to be the high point of it in terms of the number of not only the number of people who are in the election, it's unbelievable, but more equally important, our efforts to try to make sure that people understand that that we support the democracy, we support the kinds of things that are essential, and that we're going to fight to maintain it. And California has done that in the last 4 years or so. Every time we turn around, there's a different lawsuit. There's a different challenge to the issues that we face in a democracy. We have to fight to make sure that we're clear about what people have rights to do and don't. We had to fight to make sure that all of your data and information was not given over to the Department of Justice, so that they could pry into your background and yourself and those kinds of things. And we can still fight that. We had to fight the Department of Justice. Now we're fighting Homeland Security because now they want your data. They want your information. And we are fighting to make sure that the principles in California that we fought to have as our laws that govern us still hold fast, that people cannot just we cannot just give away your privacy and your information without, especially since there's no reason for them to have it. So we're fighting this battle, and it's amazing to me that it's every day there's something different that challenges us in every aspect of California. And one of the things they want more than anything is that Californians vote. They want Californians' right to vote. They want to make it harder for us to have people to vote. We spent the last 4 or 5 years. We spent the last 4 or 5 years making sure. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, we spent the last 4 or 5 years making sure that that we could register young people early, that we could go into every community just about and make sure that people were registered to vote. And to increase the ability of people to vote, but also to increase their ability to use vote by mail. And that has netted a significant number of people voting. People like to vote by mail. A large percentage of our folks are voting by mail, and other kinds of things that come with it. All of those things mean that those things are under attack, and we see it every day. There's an effort to basically take away vote by mail, to challenge us on voter ID, even though there's no, and to argue that there's a lot of fraud and deception without any data, information that we've asked for years, to say, show us the data of the frauds and deceptions that's there. And we've not been able to get any of that information because it doesn't exist. So these are difficult times. Our vote is extremely important. And as I said, it is something that we're fighting every day for. It's important to me. My grandparents never got a chance to vote in Arkansas because they were not allowed the opportunity to register to vote. And my parents didn't vote until they were well into their 30s, after they had actually left Arkansas under most difficult circumstances and come to California. They valued the vote, they valued education. And my parents actually opened a polling place in our living room in South Central Los Angeles because there was no other place for people to go to actually vote. And so my mother, who worked at the polls, volunteered our home, and our house became a polling place until she passed away. So we have, as a part of our DNA, the issue of voting and the importance of voting. And we continue to fight to make sure that that happens and it's right for all of us. So I'm going to stop there because I know some of you have questions. We are making sure that that we're safe and secure in our voting. There's always something going on. But we work to make sure that we protect the voting rights. We have put in some new laws to make sure that those who attack polling places, those who attack people who work in polls, will not be tolerated and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We've also made it possible for people to observe the voting, to be able to go into various places and see voting taking place. And to see it so that they can see that it's not an issue of fraud and deception, but it really is people, everyday citizens working in our polls, making sure that things are safe and everyone has an opportunity to basically make sure that they express their desires and wishes, and that we will have a safe and secure voting space. So that having been said, I'm more than happy to answer questions that you might have concerning where we are with the voting situation. We know that election is June 2nd. It's coming up real soon. And we've already in the process of receiving ballots that have come in, not only from around California, but also overseas ballots. I've been into some polling places recently and some registrar voter offices that we visited this past week. And we already see the data coming in, not so much the count itself, but the fact that there are ballots still coming in from overseas. And folks are eager about voting and making sure that their voices are heard. Any questions?
You hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
My name is Jennifer, and I just wanted to ask you a question. We've been very frustrated and saddened by what's been happening in Louisiana and in Tennessee and Alabama, and the list keeps growing. And so, what is something that you recommend that we can do to support our Southern citizens that have lost their rights?
I think it is very, very disheartening, especially when you come out of an environment where you know how hard it was for people to get the right to vote. You know how hard it was to get the Voting Rights Act of 1965, all the things that people had to do to protect their ability to vote and to ensure that they were safe and secure in voting, and that there were no extra rules and regulations that did those things. So when we look at when you actually study that and you understand it and your family lived it, and as most of you know, I was a professor of Africana studies for 40 years at San Diego State University. So studying the Civil Rights era and the Voting Rights Act and all those things, and seeing Selma and understanding the challenge of getting that, it is disheartening to basically see what is happening. Now, I understand that there are some activities occurring from Tennessee and some other places, and people are collecting money and resources to make that happen. The whole issue of gerrymandering and what started with Trump in Texas and now is spreading, and that they're even getting more vicious about it and bold about it and unapologetic about it. I mean, they make no bones about that. They want to take more and more, and they want to limit people from voting. The thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that that people across the nation are voting, that they are expressing their issues, that I got to tell folks, regardless of what happens, we're going to continue to fight. But don't stop voting. Don't turn away. Don't say, look, there's no hope. There's no this, no, because that's what they want us to believe, that there is no hope in terms of being able to turn the tide and get things done. That there is there's nothing that we can do, and that we just have to sit and cry about it. Such is not the case. We need to fight back, and we have to fight very hard back, because they're taking certain things. One of the things they're doing right now is that, and it was in the news last night, and it's a part of the Democratic Party's effort. The highest voting population, the largest percentage of voting population in the Democratic Party are Black women. And most folks know that that Black women vote at a higher percentage than any other group, and it's hard for them to believe, but that's true, and that they vote Democratic more than any other group. So this is a very stable voting population. And every time you turn around, there's an effort to take away that right. And I know that groups like BWAPA and there's another group that's coming up, Win with Black Women, are meeting this weekend, and they're raising funds and they're getting organized to make sure that those folks can get to the polls, that they can vote, that they have the opportunity to do that, because that is going to be critical as to say, as a voice, that you may try to come after me, but you cannot, because I won't let you. I'm going to vote no matter what. And so wherever I go, I'm supposed to be in the Bay Area this weekend, meeting at some churches. I'm saying to folks, it may be difficult. It may be hard. We've gone through this before. Vote. Don't let anybody deter you from voting. Don't let them make you feel that it doesn't count, because it really does. Because if it didn't count, folks would not spend so much time and so much energy trying to organize against us to vote. I tell young people that. I said, you think that they would spend this much time and energy trying to keep you from voting and keep you from registering to vote if voting didn't matter? It really does. And it's the one power and the one influence we have. So I say to folks what we're looking at, find those states that are in need of help and help them. California has consistently worked with all of the states to make sure that when they put something in, that we are working with their attorneys and with others to make sure that we are still fighting and filing amicus briefs to make sure that our voices are heard across the board in terms of what we're doing. Trying to make sure that we send people, if we can, to those states to protest, to walk, to basically participate in the process that's there, and making sure that those people are not alone, that we are sending resources, that we are calling, that we are phone banking, that we're doing whatever we can to make sure that they have a voice and that their voices are being heard. The greatest depression for us would be for us to lose hope and to basically not vote and not participate in what's there. So I recommend to every Democratic club to help with not only just in what's happening in California, but to make sure that we reach out to the Democratic clubs and organizations in the states across the nation so that they can get what they need. And the speaker of the Democratic Party chair, Hakeem Jeffers, has an initiative going forward. I hope most of us will contact the National Democratic Party and ask what can we do, whether it's phone banking, calling. I have friends who are retired who go to states and walk walk precincts and knock doors to make sure that people are participating in voting. We cannot let people feel that they're alone or that these folks will win in the end.
I put a question in the chat.
Okay.
I'm hearing, my name is CJ Kingsley. I'm hearing confusion on the age a person can vote, 18 or 21. Could you please make a statement about that?
18. We won that some while ago during the Vietnam War, remember? And they can pre-register to vote at 16 and 17. And when they turn 18, they get a little congratulatory letter from my office telling them they can now vote. But 18 is the age in California. And that's been in existence now for a long time. But 18, yes.
Thank you.
And also help young people understand that we also have that you can register to vote same day registration. So sometimes people get confused and they didn't register because they're certain, they thought that they were too young or whatever it was, and they didn't register. So they said, well, I'll do it the next time around. We have same day registration in California, which means if you failed to register and you did not, and you met and didn't meet the deadline, and I'm trying to block on the deadline, I think the deadline is sometime this week. Make sure you go and the day of election, you can register to vote. You can be a provisional ballot person. You'll be given the necessary information. And then what will happen is they'll put your ballot aside. They'll put it in an envelope. And then they will, when the election day ends, they will then go back and verify that you are eligible to vote and certify you as a registered voter, and they will count your ballot.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question.
Okay.
Is there any provisions or steps we're taking to keep ICE agents away from polling places?
We are, one of the things that we were in I was in a security meeting a couple of weeks ago with the secretaries across the nation. And they talked about a number of things. And I asked the question, are you going to send ICE into our polling places? And they assured us, I never swear by these people, but they assured us that ICE would not be going into polling places anywhere. So we'll see if that's correct. But in addition to that, we had already started in this, because we do this every election. We start working on issues of security early. And we knew that this would be a unique election and that we would have to really start very early. So we've been working since the beginning of the year to make sure that we have enough security in our voting places, to make sure that all of our officers who are sheriffs and others around the state understand the rules and regulations, because sometimes because they don't do this often, they don't know that they have the authority to do certain things. So I guess Orange County always does it. And so we've used their pattern. They have a list of all the things that any sheriff can do, and they make a little card for them to hold and to have, so that all of them, if there's any incident that occurs, they know exactly what their authority is. That's number one. Number two, they also know who to call. What is the phone number? So they're not looking for, do I call the sheriff, or do I call this, or do I call that? We've also been working, we have lawyers who work with us all the time, and they have also been organized so that if there's any incident that occurs that tries to block voting in California, we have lawyers who are already prepared with documents to go into any court and to basically have that stopped in terms of them being able to block our folks from voting. So we've been preparing. We have a number of things that are there, and we have folks who go into the various districts and polling places, the registrar of voter counties, and to basically make sure that there's any incident that comes in, we'll get it immediately, because we have a team of folks throughout the state who work with us. Also, our hotline is already activated, and our hotline will be working 24 hours a day to make sure that anything that happens, we basically can respond and respond quickly to it. And as I said, we train all of our officers and others to understand that there are some rules and regulations that govern voting in California, that govern the activities that we engage in, and the authority they have to intervene. Any other questions?
I have one more question about what happens if the Republicans contest the results, if there's a plan in place.
There's a plan in place. If they try to contest the results, yes, there is a plan in place. And we've had different scenarios that our folks have gone through. And so we're prepared for that. I mean, that was one of the first things we knew we'd probably have to do and make sure that we're prepared. So we're not caught flat-footed and surprised. There's nothing right now, basically, that surprises any of us anymore. But we are prepared. We are prepared, yes. Any other questions?
Yes, one more.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that concerns me the most is the danger of the general primary, the fact that, normally with the primary, I go for the Democratic candidate that best fits my policies, it's like, we gotta go for the one that's the most popular. May or may not, versus the Republicans.
Please stay close to the mic.
Yeah, I'm trying to, you said you're concerned about the double primary?
Primary. And the potential of the Republicans, the Democratic vote being split.
Yeah,
Normally,
that's real. Now that is real. That is real, and that is not make believe. That happened about what has it been about 12 or 15 years ago when this whole open primary was developed, and I voted against it. I knew it was a disaster. People thought it was great. It was sold as a bill that it would be a great thing because then people could just be open and vote for who they want and blah, 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 blah. And most people thought that meant I could vote for, all the Democrats I wanted, whatever it was. I'm not sure what people thought. And we've seen this happen in a couple of places in Southern California where in a Democratic district. I think it was either congressional district or I think it was a congressional district. And it almost happened in my election in 2012. There were 5 or 6 Democrats running and 2 Republicans. And there was great concern that we 5 Democrats would split the vote 5 different ways and the 2 Republicans would win. And just not as a fluke, but because of what we did, I came in, there were 5 or 6 Democrats. I ended up with 30 some odd % of the vote. One Republican ended up with 19 and the other one ended up with 17. So if I had not gotten such a large number of votes and had gotten what my colleagues got, 10, 12, 13, we'd have had a Republican representing a Democratic district. And because there's no opportunity to have a write-in candidate at that time, there's none of that available in this system. And in the past, we've not paid a whole lot of attention to it because of the fact that there weren't that many people running. But now that you've got 60, 70, I don't know what the late number is because some people suppose it dropped out, but they didn't, they're still on the ballot. When you've got all these people running and you have a number of Democrats, Republicans running and other parties, third parties running. But it is possible that you could split the vote in so many different ways. And it kind of shows it in some of the surveys that we could end up with 2 Republicans running for governor. And if that happens, there is no write-in. There is no thing you can add to it. Those are the only options you have is to vote for them. So that's a concern, and that's been a big concern, and people have raised the issue with so many folks who are running to say you don't have a hope in hell, get out before we blow it. People are talking about changing the policy in the future, but we have to deal with the present right now. And so that is a concern, and it's a real concern because it is reality. If that were to happen, it would be exactly that a state like California, so blue, would have a red governor. Yeah.
All right, one last question. Thank you, Dr. Weber.
Thank you for taking my question. Recently, over 1 million Californians put the initiative on the ballot to require a voter ID or
Yes.
an ID and vote. Is there any precaution or plan in place if that does pass from the leadership level?
I met with several people who are political enthusiasts as well as those who work with elections. And they've had various discussions amongst themselves of what does it mean if this happened? What the voter ID means? It's a very a very interesting initiative because it's not like the SAVE Act. It's not as draconian as the SAVE Act, but nonetheless, it has some things in it that could be problematic. We'd have to craft it. I think if it were to pass, it comes to my office to basically write the regulations and the limitations and the things for this particular act. But it is possible, and it's probable because people like the word the voter ID. And the sad thing is that most folks don't realize we already have voter ID. People just can't walk in and start voting. They have to have certain identification. Probably all of you in the room must have had some level of certification, whether you've been voting for 10 years or 50 years. We all had to provide some information. So if it passes, then we will do our best to try to make sure that it doesn't have as negative an effect as it could have on us. But mainly, we're hoping and saying to folks, listen, we have voter ID. All of you who registered to vote had to show some form of identification. And we want to make sure that we don't disenfranchise people. The SAVE Act requires everybody to go to the polls in person. I don't think people want to do that anymore. And the SAVE Act requires everybody to re-register. So those are the things that happen with the SAVE Act. We're not sure exactly because the voter ID doesn't demand as much, but it could, depending on how it is worded in the end and who implements it. So we have voter ID. Everybody has to have some identification. And but it's once again those efforts to say, look, this protects us from fraud and deception. It really does not, because one, we don't have that much fraud and deception in California. We don't. We haven't been prosecuting people for this. But in addition to that, it would, if there was fraud and deception, voter ID would not stop it. I mean, how many teenagers do we know have false identifications to go to bars and everything else? I mean, people can do this if they choose to violate the law. And if you do that, then you do violate the law. And it is a felony to basically give misinformation and disinformation concerning voting and your identification. So we hope it won't. I'm hoping and praying that most folks will see through it, and we're trying to get information out to them. And a lot of community groups are trying to get information out. Hopefully, the various, I know labor has been trying to getting word out that voter ID is not going to be helpful. And it's going to do nothing but cause more confusion for people. And so we're trying to get that information out to help people really understand what voter ID does and the negatives that may come as a result of it. Yeah. Okay.
Someone put a
Excellent.
question in the chat. They want to know the process for getting the right to vote back after incarceration.
There is no process, because once you finish with your incarceration in California, you are re-enfranchised. You vote. You can register to vote. You don't have to ask the governor for permission. You don't have to fill out any forms. My staff goes into the jails when folks are being let out and work with the parole officers almost every month and throughout the state. And anyone who comes out is informed that once they have finished their sentence, they immediately are enfranchised. They can register and they can vote. And the only people in California who cannot register to vote who are citizens are those who are physically sitting in a federal prison, not a jail, but a prison. If you're in jail, you can register, you can vote in California. You still can register and you can vote. You can register and vote while you're sitting in jail. But if you're convicted of a felony and you're in prison, you cannot vote. But as soon as you finish your term, you are able to vote. And if you're on probation, you can still vote. And so California, it makes it possible for all of us to be able to not only vote while we're incarcerated, while we're in prison and in jail, rather, in those kind of places, but as soon as you finish your sentence, you are allowed to vote again. Yes. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Secretary Weber. It was such an honor to have you.
Well, thank you all. It was good being with you. We know come January 2nd, June 2nd, that we're going to win this, that we're going to basically take it back, and we're going to do what we can to make sure that we strengthen everything in California and across the nation, because this is an extremely important election, and we can't let it slip. We can't let it slide. We have to be vigilant. So thank you so very much for having me with you tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we'll be voting for you this year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys take care and work hard.
Wyeth, you are up.
I'm so glad that she passed me my notes because I couldn't find them. I have the deep honor of presenting a tiny introduction to Mia Bonta. And in Alameda, we know Mia Bonta. Before serving in the legislature, she was the CEO of Oakland Promise, helping to support children and students cradle to career. She was president of the Alameda Unified School Board, where she helped guide students, families, and teachers through the challenges of the pandemic. She's continued that work in the California legislature, focusing on healthcare, education, affordability, and equity. And as the chair of the Assembly Health Committee, she has worked to advance healthcare affordability legislation, strengthen oversight of healthcare costs and corporate consolidation, and expand access to reproductive and maternal health care. She's also championed youth-focused policies from legal support for immigrant children to education initiatives focused on literacy and student success while promoting equity and community investment across California. I must say, we know her not only as our representative, but she's also our neighbor. She's a fellow public school parent, and obviously, she was a leader through the catastrophe of the pandemic. And for that, I will always be grateful that I slept better every single night, thanks to her leadership and the support that she provided to staff, students, and families during a very, very difficult time. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that, Mia is one of us. She's a member, she's a supporter of our club. She's been encouraging for many of us who are running for office, especially women and people of color. And I'm very, very proud to call her my childhood friend. And I want to tell you that her commitment to justice, to equity, to health for all is genuine. It's been there forever. And she's always lifted up whatever community she's been a part of. And it's my deep, deep honor to introduce Mia Bonta.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Wyeth. I am in Sacramento right now, coming off of the heels of several different sessions. And I want to thank you for that amazing introduction. It's always my honor to be able to visit with the City of Alameda Democratic Club, my Democratic Club, in the city that I've had the honor of living in for 26 years. I know that my mother must be there or around the way, or perhaps she's taking care of my son, which is the Lord's work that she does to make sure that I have the ability to do this work here. Today, I had an opportunity to walk around Representative Justin Jones from Tennessee. And we were on the heels of what has been happening in Tennessee, where the Voting Rights Act has been completely stripped because of this Trump Supreme Court's decisions, and we are at a perilous moment right now for our democracy. And I got to hear his stories about what he is contending with, being stripped of all of his abilities to sit on any committee because he's trying to stand up for our ability to have not racialized gerrymandered seats. I got to hear how he has no support at all in the state of Tennessee. And I got to hear how incredibly important it is for California to stand up in this moment right now. You just heard from Secretary Dr. Weber about the importance of this moment right now for California and for the nation. And the combination of those two day-long conversations for me helped me to recognize what an incredible privilege it is, not only to serve and represent the beautiful people, as I always say, of Alameda, Emeryville, and Oakland every single day, representing us in Assembly District 18. But what a privilege it is to be able to do that in the state of California. I came to the legislature in 2021 focused on making sure that we would be able to sustain ourselves through a health crisis. And I find myself years later in a position as Assembly Health Chair, essentially doing the same thing. Right now, we know that millions of people will lose their health care because of the actions of the Trump administration, the destruction of our expanded healthcare system for undocumented immigrants, for everyday working people, the elimination of the tax waivers that help to make care affordable through the Affordable Care Act for so many, where many people will see their premiums skyrocketing, double, tripling, even quadrupling in some instances. And we are at the center of that right now. And I, as Assembly's Health Chair, am certainly at the center of that. I'm on the side of the road right now, so forgive the bells from the tram. So I've been able to work hard for the state of California to make sure that we are going to be able to ensure that healthcare is a little bit more affordable. I've focused a lot on breaking down the corporate monopolies that exist that keep healthcare costs too high, break down and fight against special interests that keep healthcare costs too high, and make sure to represent everyday people in making sure that they not only have access to care on paper, but access to care in actuality. And it's been my honor to be able to do so. I spent a lot of my time in the legislature also focused on making sure that cities like Alameda have the resources that they need to be able to ensure that we have more affordable housing. Obviously, we have incredible champions in the East Bay. Our colleague, Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, the best among them. And my time has been focused more on ensuring that we have the ability to place renters and tenant protections at the center of that work. And that's an important piece of the puzzle, as well as ensuring that people have the ability to have home ownership. I've been specifically focused on making sure that we take advantage of community land trusts, that people have the ability to collectivize, ability to have ownership of property and land, and also to be able to ensure that we have communities that have typically been disenfranchised and redlined, like in the city of Alameda. Black communities in particular have the ability to be able to take their land back. This year, I'm working on legislation that will seek to reinstitute the California's ability to have redistricting, or the ability to have I'm not using the right word, but California's ability to have be able to have the California Reinvestment Act, to be able to ensure that we are investing in local communities, to be able to invest in loans and mortgages, and the ability for us to be able to have that kind of funding available to us at the community level through a California Reinvestment Act. And I've also focused a lot of my time on ensuring that we have a very just criminal justice system and legal system, because I believe that people need to be able to come back into our community, and we are safer when we have people who have a path to be able to reintegrate into our communities. So healthcare, housing, ensuring that we are addressing the everyday needs of affordability for Californians have been what I've been focused on while I've been in the legislature. And every 2 years, I get to look in the mirror and ask myself if I am still the right person for the job. I believe that I've delivered for the state of California and for this district, ensuring that we have in the city of Alameda, for instance, the ability to build affordable housing through the land swap deals that we needed to make sure had happened, and to protect the folks who live in the marina and who are at risk of losing their homes through the actions of landlords that were holding on to those properties. And I wanted to make sure that we have the ability to continue to do that work. It would be my honor to be able to serve you And happy to stop there and answer any additional questions that you might have. I see questions in the chat from Stephanie Baker around the announcement that JD Vance is declaring seizure of California Medicare and Medicaid funds today. That does not surprise me. We are in a moment of great assault for our healthcare, and after 3 years in this work, deeply in this work, I am poised to be able to make sure that we have the greatest amount of protections for us, particularly around Medi-Cal, the ACA, and Medicare. And I hope to be able to continue to do that work. So thank you all for having me, and love to answer any questions.
A hot topic today at our meeting has been about who we're voting for governor. You are supporting Tom Steyer in the governor's race. Want to know why?
Thanks. I am supporting Tom Steyer. I endorsed him, I want to say months ago. My reasoning for doing so was twofold. One is I've had the ability to work with Tom very closely over the last several years. I have appreciated the work that he's done with NextGen in particular to ensure that we have the kind of intellectual heft to pull off some major propositions against cash bail, to be able to support our redistricting with Prop 50 and so much more. And so I know him to be a man that stands behind his values. He's been very consistent in his values. What you hear him say on the campaign trail is what he has been saying for many years, even before he was running for president, and certainly before he was running for governor. The second reason why I am supporting Tom Steyer is because I trust him. And for a kid who grew up experiencing poverty and who is a progressive who has had to recognize the seizure of our communities by billionaires, that's a tough thing for me to say. And I thought long and hard about my ability to say that with confidence. The reason why I trust him is because he is somebody that I believe has great integrity. He has done the work and examined how he came into his billions, and he's spending the better part of his life in the political realm, making sure that those billions are put towards the use of everyday Californians. And I don't trust people who are still in a mindset of trying to go after that kind of the golden ring, who are subject to corporate interests, who will say things like they need to be able to have, the support of oil and entities that I believe are killing Californians and killing our environment, and who will have a different level of accountability. Tom Steyer has said that he's accountable to the team of legislators that are going to help move a progressive agenda. And sometimes that's very hard to get in our legislature. And so I find him to be somebody that I will trust will be a good partner to certainly the progressive flank of the legislature in this time.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Assemblymember. We know you have a very busy schedule right now. We appreciate you taking time to meet with our club.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
All right. So next up is one more incumbent, local incumbent who's up for re-election, Lena Tam. Joining us in person. Lena Tam was elected to the Alameda County Board of Supervisors in November 2022. She previously served as the first president of the City of Alameda Healthcare District Board, Vice Mayor and Council Member of the City of Alameda, President of the Alameda County Planning Commission, and Chair of the League of Women Voters, Alameda County. As Vice Mayor, Supervisor Tam championed transparency and accountability, leading to all of us who have listened to City Council meetings, Alameda Sunshine Ordinance. She serves on several board and external communities. She's been focused heavily on public safety, mental health, and access to county services and support for vulnerable residents. So with that, I'd like to introduce County Supervisor Lena Tam.
Thank you, Meredith. It's a pleasure to be able to meet with you and talk to you about some of the county issues. I have the honor of representing District 3 on the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, which includes my hometown of the city of Alameda, the cities of San Leandro, Oakland, and the unincorporated area of San Lorenzo and Hayward Acres. The area in Oakland that I represent is primarily the industrial and commercial areas like Oakland Chinatown, Little Saigon, Jack London Square, the Port of Oakland, Oakland Airport, and the areas that are closer to Alameda, like the Fruitvale District. And one of the areas that I wanted to focus on is I also have 3 out of the 4 county hospitals in my district. I have the Wilma Chan Highlands Hospital, I have Alameda Hospital, and San Leandro. I also have 4 or 5 clinics, federally qualified health clinics in my district. Asian Health, La Clinica de la Raza, Davis Street in San Leandro, Native American Health Center, and the new Planned Parenthood Clinic in downtown Oakland. I talk about these because for the last almost 4 years now, I've been focused on trying to get real results in terms of county government for these facilities, protecting the needs of all of these clinics, as well as providing some opportunities when it comes to community safety at the youth level. So for example, the QTAC Center, the Queer Teen Alameda Center, is something that we work really hard with Alameda Pride to put together. We also work to get the Alameda Hospice, which is now called Arnold's Place, that just had their grand opening in place. And then, of course, North Housing. And then we continue to support a lot of the programs that help with the youth, because that, I think, is the root issue when it comes to making sure we have community safety overall. There are a lot of challenges that are coming up. As you heard Assemblymember Bonta speak about, the county's main focus and my main priority going forward is to protect the safety net program, whether it's housing security, food security, and of course, healthcare facility. I serve on the healthcare committee for the board and also the social service and personnel administration and legislation and the budget and finance committee. Clearly, a lot of our programs that we fund at the county are under attack. 2/3 of our budget comes from the federal and flows through the state to the county. And that includes programs for our seniors, our LGBT community, our youth community, and our most vulnerable, like our immigrant community. And so those are programs that I am going to work really hard in allocating a countywide measure called Measure W to make sure those programs, we don't shred that safety net. And obviously providing the navigation services for our unhoused, because it's not just a matter of providing a unit of housing for someone, it's providing the wraparound services that go into that to help them get reestablished. And that's going to be fundamentally what some of those funds can be used for at the county level. And then lastly, I want to make sure there's fiscal responsibility and transparency so that we can maintain that trust with the community. Because, you know, as we said when I was on the hospital board, no margin, no mission. We need to be able to have the ability to have sustainable programs through these type of funding. So having that effort is really important. So I know I'm unopposed on the budget ballot, but I would really appreciate your support. I do have the endorsement of the Alameda County Democratic Party, the Alameda Labor Council and all its affiliates like the Building Trades, Operating Engineers, SEIU. And then I also have Planned Parenthood, BAWAPA, and all the mayors in the cities that I serve, and the council members and most of the state legislature that represent this area. So I would also appreciate your support and endorsement as well. Thank you. I'm happy to. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
A lot of us are concerned about the attacks on our constitutional rights, and there's been a lot of news about public defense and the crisis in public defense. And I'm wondering whether you support increasing funding for our local public defender office to make sure that vulnerable residents have all of the safety net services that they provide.
I think we've had this conversation, but absolutely. So one of the things that we are looking for, we have a program called CAB at the county. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It provides basically public defender support, attorney services to those that are conflicted out by the public defender's office. We're looking at trying to make sure that there's an increase in that funding and that that service is available, because we've met with the judges and there is a shortage of public defenders that are in our system. Meredith? Yes.
One thing I'm concerned about is a vehicle dweller, the way that both Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom are sort of trying to criminalize people that live in vehicles. It might be partially by choice. I really want to get that out. I found what I would consider a better situation that I like. I would be like put into a sardine can, I would say apartment complex or something like that. So it's like, I mean, I maybe there's more housing. That's connected with healthcare and social welfare indirectly.
So housing is a social determinant of health, and so having that form of housing and shelter is critical before you move forward with a lot of these other safety net programs. So at the county, we bought 2 hotels because the city of Oakland wasn't in a position to do that over at Eads Avenue. It was the old Comfort Inn and the old Days Inn, and that provides 171 units. We partner with, for example, the city of San Leandro, and we partner with Hayward to look at converting some of the former resident housing into basically a combination of assisted living, permanent supportive housing, and also housing for those that are experiencing mental health care issues. So those are the kind of opportunities we have. We are also looking at ways in which we can work with Oakland on safe car parks.
Yeah. That's more the direction. You might be in the field being able to have like a permanent place I can park. So if I go off, to do something, I have a place I can return to, maybe have storage there. My doctors, they're worried about hoarding a situation like that. But I mean, like for instance, I've sort of a place called Maker's Farm, and they have kind of like a system where scraps and things like that are recycled or repurposed. So it's not like everybody's collecting garbage or something like that. Of course, in a storage situation, you don't put like perishable foods in a storage place because like you get rodents in there and stuff like that. So that's
So you're kind of describing sort of an RV park, right?
Like an RV park that has some kind of live work space overtones. So
I think in Alameda County, those opportunities are a little bit more limiting than providing the actual conventional housing supports. Even for like victims of domestic violence, we work with the Midway Shelter and Building Futures for Women and Children to provide supportive housing immediately. But when it comes to like Safe Car Park, what we do at the county is provide what they call the street health team. We go out and we provide the programmatic services. It's the cities that are focused on the land use aspect of it. And we have we have a whole process to help the cities in the county, all 14 cities, if they want to look at those type of housing opportunities.
They're like vacant lots on the Navy base.
I'm sorry?
They're like vacant lots on the Navy base that are not used at present, things like that.
We have the Vice Mayor of Alameda. She can tell us about that.
I just have this, you know what, I teach, and I just had this whole flashback of something that funny that happened in my class and I spaced out. Sorry, so you're gonna have to repeat the question because I
He was asking if there are opportunities in the old Alameda Point, the former Navy base, for is it like RV type parking?
I mean, I know there's what used to call the Village of Love, that's not just something.
Yeah, there's I mean, the stuff that's come before the council is all this, there's different programs for getting people permanent housing. The stuff that's on the base, it's tricky in that there's so much that is, some of it's Alameda, some of it's the state, some of it's the Navy. Also, there's not water and electricity that goes everywhere. So it's, even though we see like a bunch of space and we're like, hey, we should just plop something there. I mean, I definitely think that, but once you get in the weeds or like, yeah, all that stuff, it's, yeah. So not soon, but
Contact information.
Yeah.
Kind of dig into this a little bit deeper. I have a countywide question.
Please.
So there's a new register of voters at the county level. Are you able to share any insight to the work they're doing in preparation for the upcoming primary?
So the interim registrar of voter is Cynthia Cornejo. Tim Dupuy, the registrar of voters, had retired back in March. And we have been gearing up for all the elections, but the complication that we've had with the June 2nd election is because of the Congressional District 14, Eric Smallwell's former seat. And here's the complication in Alameda County. We have a June 2nd primary, then we have a June 14th primary in that race, then we have one in August, then we have one in November in terms of the election. But the second election in June, because of Proposition 50, uses a different district line than the one in June 2nd. So the challenge has been trying to make sure that this outreach and this that the voters get informed where they're at, because there's 7,000 new voters that got added to that district. So that's been one of the challenges. The other challenges that Alameda County has, but we've been successful in managing through these elections, is we have ranked choice voting in 4 cities within Alameda County, and not all of them are the same. For example, Albany has multiple council seats, and they are all doing ranked choice voting. Oakland, San Leandro, and Berkeley. And the other challenge is the cities of Oakland and Berkeley has something called youth voting for those that want to vote just in the school board race. And you heard from Dr. Weber that you have to be 18, but you can pre-register when you're 16. Well, they're allowing 16-year-olds by a ballot measure to vote for school board elections in those 2 cities. So that creates a level of complication because it's not going to be certified by the Secretary of State. So we had to, our registrar had to develop their own separate process.
Great.
So we also have a question from the chat really quickly. Someone wanted to know, is ICE still occupying Coast Guard Island? And I similarly had a question because I know we've got places like the prison potentially being used for ICE facilities. Is there anything you can talk about in that subject?
So the county board of supervisors unanimously voted to create what we call ICE-free zones, particularly in county-controlled properties. To our knowledge, we have not heard, or our law enforcement offices, whether it's the DA, the public defender or our sheriff's office have heard that there's been ICE activity on Coast Guard Island. We did also unanimously vote to oppose, because the city of Dublin already opposed, and the federal government indicated they have no interest in putting a detention facility over at in Dublin, the former federal correctional facility for women. That's so that's our understanding at the moment. Thank you. Laurel?
All right, really quick. Thank you for all you're doing to protect healthcare. I had heard that there was some funding troubles for the local school-based health system here in Alameda, that the high schools were going to maybe lose funding for that. And I'm wondering if you think there's any opportunity for the county to step in and fund with like BHSA money or opioid settlement money to make sure to fill the gaps that the school health centers stay open.
So those programs were funded by the Mental Health Care Services Act, but when the state passed Proposition 1, it moved the funding from mental health care services to behavioral health services. Basically, it moved funding away from prevention and early treatment, like suicide prevention, into trying to build beds and have different jurisdictions compete for that. So on Monday, Alameda Family Services did come before the Board of Supervisors. We're looking to try to find ways to restore some of the funding that's getting diverted and moved, but it's going to have to be a transition period because there isn't sufficient funding within the new Behavioral Health Services Act to sustain those programs beyond the bridge. Thank you.
Supervisor Lena Tam, she's on your ballot. All right. Well, before we go to our last speaker who's been waiting patiently, I just wanted to make sure everyone met our new guest in the back of the room. This is Monroe, and she is here doing signature gathering to save Bay Area Transit. They're trying to get the ballot measure for November so that we continue having BART and other very important modes of transportation. The deadline is this weekend. They're still short a few signatures. So if you have not signed it, this is just to get on the ballot. It's not necessarily to vote for it. We just really need it on the ballot. So if you could visit Monroe before you leave today, that would be great. Didn't you say we're 40?
So we used 83,000 in total as of a month ago. We're about 36,000 short. I believe now we're still sitting at about 12,000 short, and our final is Sunday night.
12,000 short.
So also tell all your friends there's signature gathers out at our grocery stores, at all the public transportation stations. Tell them to sign it. Like, again, it's just getting it on the ballot so that we can put it up for a vote. It's very essential. And just signing the petition is not a vote for it. It's just getting it on the ballot.
Thank you.
All right. So the candidates that we featured earlier, Secretary Weber, Assemblymember Bonta, and Supervisor Tam, are Democrats who are endorsed by the Democratic Party and are up for re-election on the primary, but they do have opponents who are running against them. So in the spirit of democracy, we have invited one of the other people running for the Assembly office here this evening to do a quick introduction and answer some of your questions. So with that, I'd like to introduce Andre Sanford.
Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to speak today. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. My name is Andre Sanford, and I'm running for California State Assembly. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I went to Jacksonville State University. There I was able to attain my BA and my MS in behavioral science. After graduating, I was able to go into child protective services as a social worker. I later went to foster care, mental health. I was a director for a locked facility. Also, I'm currently a director for one of the largest housing agencies in San Francisco. The reason why I ran my first race for office because of the cost of living and because me and my wife, after having our first son, was robbed at gunpoint at our apartment. So I decided to get into politics, and I learned very quickly, like, politics is more just about crime. It's about housing. It's about everyday people in our district that just want to get by. My opponent, Mia Bonta, talked about the Voting Rights Act. My granddad lived in Selma. He went to jail with Martin Luther King that day when they walked in Bloody Sunday. I actually walked across. We have property down there. My dad was a farmer. And right now, I'm really sad because my opponent was supposed to put up SB 1331 for reparations. And in that bill was provisions to allow for voter rights, and particularly Black people. We've seen Justin. I think Justin would have went, and if that bill was there, he would have voted for reparations in Tennessee. It's very disheartening. I'm running for universal health care. My cousin just died for heart failure. We had to bury him in Alabama. And my opponent said in Politico, after it went to the political healthcare committee where she chaired, that we are not ready for universal health care at this time, which I believe we could have got it through the appropriation committee. I want to fight for housing. I work in housing. I see that we need to stop corporations from monopolizing our communities. I want to make a provision that 80% of housing are owned by families. I'm a working family. My wife is a third grade teacher. She teaches in Oakland. She has the highest third grade test scores in Oakland, where 2 out of 10 Black and brown students cannot read on grade level. It cannot go into UC schools. And majority of our California students cannot compete to go into UC schools, no matter if they're Black or brown. So I urge you guys right now to dig deep into your election and vote. No matter if you vote for me, if you vote for my opponent, Mia Bonta, or a Green Party or Republican, I want you to vote like your life depends on it. My granddad passed. He was a war veteran. We here right now, and it's kind of bringing me back. He was a war veteran in World War II, and he risked his life for this country. And I'm risking my life every day when I go out and work for my children and work for this community. I see the community members when I go knock on doors, how they cannot be able to put food on table, right? They scared for their jobs. I have a policy that I'm creating to be able to prevent IT companies from laying individuals off like you and me. Because of the expansion of IT, we have to fight back IT corporations. We cannot let them get so big that they push us out of employment. We should be able to expand the job descriptions, not replace us, right? I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to equal education in our communities. Why? Because we know that students who have opportunity to equal education. I grew up in Detroit. I grew up in the worst public school system in the country. When I graduated, I could not read on grade level. And majority of the students there couldn't be able to pass and go to college either. I had a 12 on my ACT. And I know that we need to have good teachers, right? We saw when I was going to school, we filed a lawsuit because most of the funding was reallocated out into white districts, right? And we sued and we got over $90 million. So I want to make sure that we allocate it appropriately and that we add the cost of living to the way we pay for per student for our district, especially in Alameda, where we see our teachers fighting for contracts. I was there standing with our teachers at Alameda, and they was fighting for contracts, where our assembly member right now, she sits on the education committee and watch after city after city, Oakland fighting for contracts. We have over 400 teachers are going to get laid off, and we are not increasing our budget. We have to fight for our budget. We have to fight for our young people. Our young people are the future. And finally, we have to make sure that everyone has the right to vote. We're seeing Trump and his administration go out. And I'm a Black man. I'm gonna leave this. I'm a Black man. I grew up in the worst city of Detroit where crime was out the roof. I graduated in the time where the bailout happened in 2008. I went to college. And being a Black man in America, I see how hard it is to be able to be encouraged to go out and vote. When I go out to communities and talk to Black brothers, they tell me that when they don't feel that the Democrat Party, they don't feel that any party is advocating for them. And I would say that I don't feel that my opponent is advocating for me or the community, Black community. I don't feel that my opponent is advocating when she can get up there and say no to reparations and stand with Justin. After my granddad fought and went on Selma and went to jail. And we here today advocating for the right to vote. Come on. And I almost cried. That was a lot, you know, because my family fought for this country. My family fought for this country. And when we had the reparations after being enslaved here and after seeing countries benefit, not just America, China, Europe, all these countries, Mexico, all these countries, they didn't put tariffs out there to stop slavery. They benefited. They made billions of dollars in today's market, in today's currency. Nobody stopped it. Everybody benefited for it. And when we had a chance to protect voters' rights in California, we did not do anything. And we here today. And I wanted to talk about housing more, but I want to urge you, if we want to continue to go down this rabbit hole, then vote for Mia. But if you want change, if you want someone who's not going to say I'm from universal health care, what she said in multiple endorsement meetings, and then turn around in Politico and say, she don't believe this time for universal health care when people is dying. We have a new virus is rising here in America and across the world. And we're not ready when Trump is firing thousands of CDC workers. And we are not saying we need to put more money and protect our people with universal health care. If it's not this virus, it might be another one. And I'll land here to say I thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here. And I'm sorry to be emotional. I'm not so emotional, but we need to protect people because the South, I went to school in the South. And in my school, we had a Confederate Civil War that was famous. And they used to reenact the Civil War on my campus. And I helped stop our administration building was named after a KKK wizard, a governor. And I helped take his name down. And to see my opponents say no to SB 1331 that could have helped protect voters' right act, could have boosted more people. It was 21% of Black males did not vote for Kamala because they didn't believe anymore. And we need young people to fight, not just to give lip service, to fight. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear this in the introduction. Are you a registered Democrat, and what city do you live in?
Yes, I am a registered Democrat. When I first ran my first race, I applied to run as an independent. I didn't know it was an independent party. I didn't even say American Independent. I said independent. Oh, all right, perfect. Thank you. So when I first registered to run in 2024, I put down that I'm an independent. I didn't know of an independent party, it's called American Independent. I didn't know nothing about it, and I went to try to get it taken off, but it was too late. So I, continue to run because I believe that young people need to be in politics, especially young Black males need to be in politics, where we have the highest statistics of incarceration. We underperforming in education and in job. We have the highest unemployment rate in California and in the country of all Californians. And then also, Black people have the highest total unemployment rate. So I believe I needed to stay, but now I'm running as a Democrat. Yes.
Craig, we have like about 1 minute left.
Now, the one thing I'm trying to make this as short as I can is the Martin Niemöller effect. If you remember the German minister, they did the infamous "and first they came" poem. It's like racism and other marginalized groups, disability, and like I'm on the autism spectrum, so I'm person that RFK wants to quote unquote cure, RFK Jr. That, but anyway, it's just the kind of the solidarity of marginalized groups, because often there's, even in liberal circles, sort of a divide and conquer, like the white working class and minority groups. And I've noticed that hopefully that's changing. But one thing I just wanted to put out there.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely believe that in any political structure, you're going to have a divide. But I think that within the political structure, we need to be able to come together for a common good. I know one of the things you talked about was RV housing and how important that was to you, right? And I believe that you should have a space, and everyone should have a place to lay their head, right? And so I think that in the common good of the Democrat Party, we should be able to come and support RV individuals.
Often racial, they talk about culturally specific things, but I think that goes beyond racial context. Identity specific. Like one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, definitely. One side.
The competition of family needs a partner versus I need a partner.
Yeah, I think what I would say is that everyone needs the basic things, right? Everyone needs water and food. Granted, everyone needs that, but also that and I'm thinking that you're referring to like reparations, or that's where you're referring to? Yeah. So when you refer to reparations, especially in California, where you had illegal slaves, when you had redlining and voter suppression, that we need to be able to manage. It's like somebody running a relay. My wife ran 400 hurdles and track, and she ran a relay and had a head start, and that was a handicap. Then it'd be difficult. We just seen Shirley just won that difficult race, but it'd be super difficult for them to catch up. So we have to be able to ensure that people is able to catch up or just protect them, right? Voter rights is just protecting, right? And so we should be able to align to do just that.
Two big glitches with the New Deal were the Japanese incarceration of the resident.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Again, Siberia Connect. I forgot my business. Oh, one other thing to celebrate. We have a new logo. If you didn't notice on the website. Let's give a huge round of applause to Nick Arnett for his artistic prowess. At the moment, we are planning a June 10th meeting, likely focused on local infrastructure. So join us here. Look for the emails. All right. And thank you, everyone who joined us remotely. Don't forget to vote.